It's a very peculiar moment in parenting when your child turns to you during a Mickey Mouse cartoon and asks, "Hey, Dad, is this a commentary on late stage capitalism?" And the truly unsettling part about this conversation, not the fact that it might not be real, but it's the fact that they're absolutely correct. Welcome to the unexpected renaissance of Mickey Mouse, where Disney's squeaky clean mascot has somehow inherited the chaotic energy of every banned cartoon from your childhood. It's as if someone took away whatever Disney level drugs that they were giving Mickey Mouse, and not only is he going through withdrawals from his medications, but he is also experiencing the same anxiety and dread that the rest of us feel on a day-to-day basis. And somehow it works out brilliantly. So to understand how we got here, we gotta rewind back to the 1990s when animation decided to have its proper existential crisis. Shows like Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life, and Animaniacs weren't just merely pushing boundaries, they were taking those boundaries, folding them into origami, and then setting them on fire while laughing maniacally.
Gee, maybe we should try the neutering device later.
These shows proved something revolutionary. You could critique society while also drawing uncomfortably leveled, detailed nose hair. Ren and Stimpy gave us psychological horror disguised as slapstick. Rocko's Modern Life was essentially a meditation on late-stage capitalism starring a wallaby, which is somehow both absurd and painfully relatable. And Animaniacs, well, they were doing meta commentary before the internet made meta consciousness our default state of being. As Chloe Sinclair notes in her analysis, Ren and Stimpy's influence became animation's equivalent of a Creative Commons license. It gave the green light for future animations to step outside the preconceived ideations of what a cartoon really is. Those horrifically detailed SpongeBob close-ups that still haunt our dreams, that is Ren and Stimpy's legacy, a gift that keeps on giving whether we want it to or not. And all of this brings us to Paul Rudish, a man who essentially earned his PhD in cartoon degeneracy during Cartoon Network's golden age. According to Collider's Austin Allison, Rudish brought his experience from shows like Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls and even My Little Pony Friendship is Magic to give Mickey a slick, kinetic, and even chaotic new vision. It's rather like giving your favorite metalcore band, like, I don't know, for example, let's say like August Burns Red, and putting them in charge of your church's Christmas carol. Are there gonna be a couple people clutching their pearls? Oh yes, absolutely, but at the end of the day, it's still gonna slap and it's still gonna make an impact. Oh, hello there. YouTube game guy who misunderstood the name Pegleg Pete, back at it again with another Mousecatool. So this video itself is really just inspired by the love that I have for the new Mickey Mouse cartoons. A couple of years ago, I threw these on while I was trying to pick up around the house or trying to work on something. But the thing is, I ended up watching these shorts with them because of the fact that they were absolutely insane. They were honestly a little bit strange, a little bit depraved, kind of messed up, if I may be honest. And I can't express how happy that made me as a child of the 90s who grew up watching shows like Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's and Rugrats. All these shows, not Rugrats, not so, but anyways, shows that were just jam packed with all sorts of innuendo and jokes and like smartly crude humor. And because of that, you didn't get these jokes until, much later in your life. But anyways, I digress. The new Mickey Mouse cartoons, Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse shorts, whatever you want to call them, they capture this vibe like perfectly. I can't express how good they are. Well, actually, no, I can. So let's go ahead. Let's hit the intro. We'll do the video. Also, shout out to my regular viewers. You guys are the best. And actually, Christmas shout out to my buddy SwannyTheMike. He makes really good retro content. Go check out his channel. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. But also on top of that, make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. I tried to make sure that I got just like the most ayo moments that I could find. So let me know how I did. All right, thank you very much, and let's get into it.
Step on it, Daddy.
The visual DNA of 90s animation is written all over these shorts, as if someone spliced Ren and Stimpy's art style with classic Mickey Mouse genetics. So let's go ahead and dissect this beautiful chimera for a second, shall we? First, there's a deliberately inconsistent line weight. You have thick, expressive outlines that suddenly go whisper thin for emotional emphasis. It's a technique that John Kay practically weaponized in Ren and Stimpy. Then there's also the way that Mickey's eyes will suddenly occupy like 90% of his face during moments of basically Lovecraftian dread or fear. A practice that became SpongeBob's bread and butter, but really originated in those gloriously unhinged Nickelodeon days. In fact, that exact technique was used as a punchline during Rocko's Modern Life. But Rudish doesn't just copy these techniques, he evolves them. The shorts employ what animation nerds call smear frames. Those are very beautiful moments of distorted movement that look like someone just put your pause button through the funhouse mirror. While shows like Rocko's Modern Life use these sparingly, Rudish's team embraces them with almost gleeful abandon. Mickey doesn't just fall, he becomes a mouse-shaped streak of motion blur that would make Chuck Jones proud. The backgrounds themselves also tell a story of evolution. They maintain Disney's traditional attention to detail, but add that slight touch of askew geometry that made Dexter's Laboratory feel so delightfully off-kilter. This blend of contradictory art styles really creates spaces that are simultaneously grounded yet still very subtly surreal. And under Rudish's guidance, Mickey transformed from corporate mascot to something that is far more interesting.
사랑해.
Mickey!
사랑해요.
Mickey!
사랑합니다.
A neurotic everymouse struggling to maintain his trademark optimism and an increasingly absurd world. As Allison points out, this new Mickey becomes a sensitive mouse who gets terrified, frustrated, furious, depressed, and even downright sadistic. In other words, just like us. He's just like us. He's just like us. The animation style serves this characterization perfectly. When Mickey gets frustrated, his entire body might compress like an accordion, channeling the squash and stretch principles that Ren and Stimpy push to their very logical extreme. His expressions borrow from the Powerpuff Girls toolkit of rapid-fire emotional shifts, moving from wide-eyed innocence to narrow-eyed suspicion faster than you can say hot diggity dog. Even his classic laugh gets even his classic laugh gets modulated through what sounds like every emoji in existence.
Oh, gosh golly, what a day! Us together, having fun! Oh, I wish it didn't have to end.
Perhaps most impressively, the shorts master what I like to call just absolute mood whiplash. The signature 90s ability to shift from beautiful traditional animation to deliberately crude styles just for comedic effect. 1 minute Mickey's movements are fluid and graceful like pure Disney polish, and the next second he's doing a very weird and crude walk cycle that would feel right at home with an episode of Life with Loopy. Shout out to Kablam. And this willingness to break their own aesthetic rules that makes these shorts feel so authentically tied to their 90s predecessors. I think to me, perhaps the most fascinating evidence of this aesthetics revolution, and probably the most way to perfectly validate it in terms of success, isn't in the shorts themselves, but in how Disney has literally built it into their current theme parks. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway represents the ultimate validation of Rush's vision. It's essentially what would happen if you gave those old Ren and Stimpy animators unlimited budget and told them to make something that would at least be mostly family friendly. And I will say, this is probably my absolute favorite ride in all of Disneyland. Like, people like to talk about the Disney Imagineers and the technology that they invent and employ, and this is all of it on full display here. I love this ride. So the way that the ride works is that it transforms the short's chaotic energy into an actual physical space, creating what Disney calls a 2.5D environment. It's really the perfect metaphor for this entire evolutionary chain. What started as more rebellious animation back in the 90s has become so mainstream that Disney is willing to bet literal theme park real estate on it. They've turned animation's edgy 90s phase into a family attraction that still hasn't really lost much of its edge in the process. So to me, what we're witnessing isn't just a style evolution, it's a generational changing of the guard. Those of us who grew up watching Ren and Stimpy's Nightmare Fuel are now the ones creating the Nightmare Fuel, and we've also brought our emotional baggage and detailed close-ups with us. When Rudish draws Mickey having an existential breakdown in grotesque detail, he's not just channeling the spirit of 90s animation, he's channeling us, and he's continuing a visual revolution on top of that.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah, the window is up, see?
And as Sinclair noted about this show, changed the course of animated television. The brilliance lies in how these new shorts maintain Mickey's core character while letting him finally react to the world with the full range of emotions that we all experience. He's still the optimistic dreamer that we know and love, but now he's allowed to occasionally scream into the void when things get too much. Lucky him. It's Mickey Mouse by way of Waiting for Godot, and it's exactly what the character needed to stay relevant in our increasingly absurd and meta world. Speaking of animation breakthroughs, we need to talk about these ears. So, for decades, Mickey's ears have been like animation's equivalent of the Kobayashi Maru, a seemingly unsolvable problem that has driven artists to absolute madness. When Disney tells you to draw Mickey Mouse, you also have to remember that his ears are supposed to remain perfectly circular from any angle. Thank you, Walt. This creates what I call the mouse ear uncanny valley. It's a very weird feeling you get when your brain tries to process a 3D object in a 2D space and that object refuses to obey the laws of perspective. Previous attempts to solve this have ranged from just pretend physics don't exist to maybe if we don't acknowledge it, no one will notice it. But the Rudish shorts, they found a very brilliant solution. Lean into the impossibility. By adopting the more elastic, physics-defying style of the 90s animations, they turned Mickey's perspective-defying ears from a bug into a feature. His ears now shift and squash with his emotions while maintaining their circular shape. This creates a look that is simultaneously on model and still weird and unhinged. But I mean, this is literally just scratching the surface on the evolution of Mickey Mouse's ears. For those of you who want to fall down this particularly fascinating rabbit hole, or should I say mouse hole, I've got an entire video coming up about the history of Mickey's ears and how they've challenged directors and animators and the possibility of the fundamental laws of physics for nearly 100 years now. Did you know that Mickey's ears caused a slight mini-crisis during the development of Kingdom Hearts? Or how Eworks' original animation still influences CGI Mickeys to this very day. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, hit that bell, because that's a whole nother story of artistic innovation, corporate madness, and geometric rebellion. Now, if you want to see all of these elements come together in like pitch-perfect harmony, look no further than probably my favorite short out of this entire run, Just the Four of Us. It's a 2020 short that might as well be a masterclass in modern animation comedy. The premise is deceptively simple. Donald and Daisy are trying to dodge a double date with Mickey and Minnie, but what unfolds is a perfect storm of what makes everything about these shorts so brilliant. And I'm pretty sure this was the first one that I saw that made me realize that these dudes are cooking. This episode showcases exactly how far Disney is willing to let these characters go while staying true to their core personality. The Disney team flexes every muscle in their 90s inspired arsenal. Donald's mounting frustration is expressed through increasingly elaborate panic frames that would make Ren and Stimpy very proud, while Mickey and Minnie's forcefully cheerful pursuit becomes a surreal horror show. Donald's increasingly desperate attempts to escape social interaction feel like they could have been pulled straight from a Rocko's Modern Life episode about anxiety, while Mickey's relentless optimism becomes almost horrifying in its intensity, just like a cheerful force of nature that cannot be stopped. And what makes this episode particularly special is how it layers its comedy. The surface level slapstick works for kids, but underneath there's razor sharp satire about social obligations, relationship dynamics, and just a perfect satire of a lot of horror tropes. A lot of these exaggerated feelings can feel uncomfortably close to home for any adult who's ever been trapped in an endless cycle of couples game nights. It's really that kind of multi-layered storytelling that made the best 90s cartoons still resonate across generations today. To quickly wrap up, I think that this evolution represents something larger than just updated character designs or edgier jokes. It's proof that animation's rebellious phase wasn't just a phase, it was a necessary evolution in the medium's emotional vocabulary. When Disney, the company that practically invented sanitized children's entertainment, embraces the legacy of animation's most rebellious phase, it's not just validation for those early rebels. It's a recognition that sometimes the best way to preserve a classic character is to let them grow up with their audience. The real magic here is that kids still love Mickey, perhaps even more than before. They recognize in him something authentic, a character who, just like them, is trying his best to maintain optimism in a world that often seems designed to test it, crush it, and break it. He's become what every great character should be, a mirror that reflects our own experiences back at us. just with more slightly exaggerated facial expressions and the occasional surreal break from reality. In the end, what started as animation's rubble has become its salvation, proving that sometimes the best way to really preserve tradition is to let it evolve. And if that evolution happens to include some really weird, uncomfortable, detailed close-ups and the occasional sense of existential dread, well, I mean, that is just a part of growing up, you know? All right, if you made it this far, legitimately, thank you. And you know what? If you had to like skip forward because the scenes just started getting a little bit too weird for you to handle, thank you. I'm glad that my editing worked well. So let me know what you think. Let me know what else you want to talk about. Leave a comment down below. Literally every little bit of engagement that you give to me just helps me in ways that you cannot, well, no, you can understand the algorithm. Even just leaving a like or helps the algorithm so much. And really, like I said, I appreciate you making it far to the end. We have more videos here coming up. You're gonna see my last video and then maybe a video that YouTube thinks that you might like from some of my backlog. So yeah, just go ahead, take your time. If you watch a couple of my vids before you subscribe, I can. And yeah, thank you again. And I hope you guys have a great holiday and a very safe New Year. Bye. Oh, maybe I'll see you guys before the end of